Hey, what's happening, guys? I'm Sam Johns, and today we are going to be reviewing the Ghost ink cartridges. These were sent to me by the fine guys over at Star Tattoo Supplies. So yeah, big up to them. Huge shout out. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, I want to talk to you about is the box. When it first came, I thought they'd scuffed up the box and just sent me a duddish box, but it's actually quite cool. It's part of the design. They have the Ghost mascot, I guess you'd call it, kind of on the box itself. The box is nothing special in the sense of it's slide in, slide out. It does the job. It's a box. Like, I'm not gonna hype it too much. It's a box. It has the information on the side that you need. Box. So what Star sent me were the 7-round liner, 7-round shader, 13 curve mag, and 17 curve mag. These were the ones that I use primarily when I'm tattooing, so these were the ones that I mainly review today. I will also review the 3-round liner, as I do use them and I have been using them in the past. The other kind of needles they do sell on their website I won't be reviewing, purely for the fact that I haven't tried them myself, so keep that in mind. So first things first, let's talk about the housing. The plastic itself is dead sturdy. I can't knock it because I have used cartridges in the past which have a flimsy plastic. Usually I give it a bit of a squeeze and just see. I've had some that kind of have a bit of a bend in it, which kind of doesn't fill me with hope, just shows they've cut corners and made it cheap. The needle itself is made out of high-grade Japanese steel. For you that kind of won't quite understand it, all that means is the fact that it's not going to blunt, it's not going to dull down, it's not made out of a cheap steel where, again, the companies cut corners. When you start tattooing with it, you're like, this is quite nice. After the first hour or two, you start to kind of feel like it's just not performing as well as you'd hope, and that's when you start to encounter the problems. Now, firstly, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's pink, like really pink. I don't mind it, to be honest. It stands out in this day and age, especially with tattooing. The market's getting crazy saturated with cartridges, all kind of products. You gotta do something to stand out. So the color itself, go for it. The one thing that I do love about this is the ergonomic grip. Now, I've used cartridges that come with a grip, some that don't come with a grip. To be honest, I like them with a grip because sometimes, I don't know about you guys, I'm kind of in there and my hands quite just sitting on the cartridge itself. One, it's nice for that. Two, when you've got like lubricant on your hands or ink, bits like that, where you're trying to change your cartridge over just quick, sometimes you can get those ones that are a bit slippy, a bit stiff. This makes it really, really easy to change your needles over. So I actually really enjoy this. It's one of the features of the cartridge I'm actually really enjoying as well. Now, they've got this new ink flow kind of technology. Essentially, it's a bigger hole. Now, for basic kind of physics, more air goes in, easier the ink flows out. Just improved ink flow. At first, I didn't really know how much this, I'm going to put this down because I keep just playing with it. I don't know how much that would make for a difference. But to be honest, I was quite pleasantly surprised, especially when we came to the liners, which we'll talk about now. So we have the 7-round liner. When using this, to be honest, I didn't have any complaints. It worked exactly how you'd expect. It put the lines in pretty smoothly. Again, with the advanced ink flow bit, I didn't know at first how much of a difference it would make. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. As well, what I did notice is how the housing itself tapers. It's a lot kind of wider and not as long and thin. So what it kind of led for was you can fill the reservoir to a decent point without kind of getting to that point as soon as you touch the skin. It doesn't just dump all the ink. It keeps a pretty consistent flow of ink throughout the entire line, so you don't have to do this thing where you pull in and it's just not picking up the same quality of ink the entire way. and you end up having to do those second passes. But no, to be honest, one pass did the job. I personally would prefer a tighter grouping at the end of the needle, and I don't mean things like with bug pins or tight, but yeah, just that little bit of a tighter grouping towards the end potentially could help with any kind of further problems. Now with these, I will show you again with the one we've opened, there's no real wobble. The housing at the end is nice and snug. I've had cartridges in the past where your hand can be as steady as you want, but this is just going to shift. They've given it too much play. I didn't have an issue with these. The whole time, nice and smooth. There was no real wobble. It sat nicely in the housing. Obviously, yes, all these needles come with a membrane, so there's no like loose play and wobbling around with it. It works quite well. So in that regard, I had no issues. Now, obviously, I don't have the 3-round liner here, but I was using that. Now, I do like to stipple shade, whip shade, whatever you want to call it, and that's what I would use for them. Now, lining with it, perfect. I didn't have an issue with it. Again, it runs super smooth. It's a super quiet cartridge. No issues with it at all. The only part that I found that potentially could be improved on is if I was stipple shading with it over the course of the tattoo, especially towards the later end of the tattoo, I did find that it kind of would open a little bit, in the sense of you would notice these dots aren't as tightly grouped as they were at the start of tattoo. Is it a deal breaker? No, but it's just something that like I picked up on. I don't know if other people would have had the same kind of issue. And now we're going to talk about the mags. To me, these were the star of the show. I couldn't knock these. These worked incredibly well, especially when it came to things like color packing, bits like that. No issues. Even with soft shading, I had no issues, no problems. They go in well. The only thing that I potentially would say is, looking on the website, majority of their needles come in long taper. Just for diversity, I would say potentially hit up with some short and medium tapers. Personally, I don't really mess with bug pins too much. I know they do certain sizes with bug pins, certain not. So the biggest issue that I had with any of the ghost kind of stuff was, I found when I looked on the website just to kind of find out more about them, it's the range. I think if you cover a larger range, obviously more artists are going to be able to fit into those criteria to find the needles they like. With the thicker pigments, you could tell it would slow down a little bit. Mainly, I would admit, not with the mags, it was more with the round shader. When you hit those thicker coloured pigments, you would notice it bogged down a little bit, but that's, to be fair, you could fix that by just keeping your needle nice and clean, potentially just thinning out your inks a little bit. Again, it was mainly with the really thicker pigments. But the mags, no issues. The only thing that I did have a problem with some of the mags, but again, I don't think this was like a problem with production. This maybe just having a couple of maybe just bad cartridges, was the membrane would snap on a few of them. Now, again, this wasn't like each one, it wasn't an often thing, but it was one of those parts where it was a bit annoying. So I don't know what material they use for their membranes, or maybe there might have been an issue with them. I might have just got a few dud ones, but I did have a couple of membranes snap on me. Again, deal breaker, no, just slightly annoying. One big thing that I want to mention is with the Ghost cartridges, one thing that I was really happy with was the quality versus price range. Now, everyone out there is going to understand, especially when you get to the mags, the higher end of the mags, you start to see the biggest price difference. Now, with the mags themselves, they retail starting out around about £22, and then when you get to the higher end, they only go up to about 32. So there is a £10 increase, but I'm sure most of you are fully aware, when you get to the bigger price ranges on some companies, you're going to see the sting. So you're looking at like some products, you look at 20 quid plus in a difference just for a slightly bigger size mag. And for the price increase, you don't really see much more in terms of like quality of build. With Ghost, what I think they've actually hammered here is the quality of the build versus the price. It's a solid price for a solid cartridge. I've used plenty of different stuff in the past where I've used expensive cartridges expecting them to just be better and being solely disappointed. I've used some that are expensive and being pleasantly surprised, but can I justify the cost difference? No. Same as I've used some more budget needles where I was actually really shocked at just how well they perform for the price, versus ones that there's a reason why they cost that much, because they're trash. They've landed solely like smack bang in that sweet spot where you're going to get a solid product for a solid price, and I think they've hammered that. They've actually done a really good job with throughout the range of needles. You're going to get a solid needle, solid price, can't go wrong with them. All in all, my summary: solid cartridge, solid price range. I'm really happy with them, especially like I said, the mags. If you haven't tried them, I would recommend going and trying them. But yeah, honestly, solid piece of kit. Couldn't be happier.